Sound test. We're doing AdCoder problems today. AdCoder beginner problems, so easier stream than yesterday. Yesterday we tried the AdCoder regular, and those problems, well, some of them were challenging. Hi Decoy, Ashutosh, Daval, hi. The registration for the IOI camp is on, for the Huawei IOI camp 2025. The link is on Codeforces, but it's only for IOI participants. Okay, so if you're going to IOI and you want to practice a little bit just before the going to the contest for 1 week, or for less, if you cannot participate in all the contests, then consider joining. Yes, I do use virtual machine. And not this. Whenever I type AdCoder into the browser, the first thing that pops up is the AdCoder DP contest, because I use it a lot. I refer to it a lot when people ask me about stuff or when I recommend DP problems to people. It's a very good set of DP problems, this thing. If you're interested, it's this. I once did a live stream solving this. Okay, what we want is, from recent contests, we want AdCoder beginner contest. Then this one sounds good. AdCoder beginner 413. I wonder if maybe I should go from oldest sometimes, not from newest. Because the first AdCoder contests that were held in English, they are of very nice quality, I think, because they used more of standard problems, short statement standard problems. You can argue if it's valuable or not. For somebody very experienced, it's maybe more boring, but for the sake of educational content, I think it's very good. So let's try this, maybe. Here's the link. Chat commands. Hi, Cosmic Boy. We have n items and one bag. The size of item I is AI, and this is size of the bag. We wonder if we can put all the bags in all the items in the bag. Okay, I think that this is not a very interesting problem among the easy ones, though maybe this is exactly how easy problems should look like. So we check if the sum of those values fits in M. Just the straightforward check if you know how to do for loops. Optionally arrays, but you don't really need an array here. Do we have test cases? No. And M, and then read the values. Now I could read them into an array, but instead I'm going to just, as I go, read a single value, add it to the sum, and print if sum smaller equal M, then what do we print? Yes, else no. Old contests aren't translated. I'm talking about the oldest contest that is translated. But you're right, I think the very oldest contests are not translated, and then I would skip those. unless I get information that they are of such high quality that it's worth using some translator. Though then again, I don't think it's very convenient for the stream where you're supposed to learn something, and the problems, I want the problems to be easy to understand for somebody who joins the stream. Hi Chandu, what's my day job? No, I consider eventually doing software engineering, but right now my job is, let's say, teaching. I don't have a full-time job. I do a lot of smaller things. Okay, the second task. We are all LGMs here. I guess it's a little bit like if there is some kind of disaster. Let's say there is disaster in France, let's say, and then everybody in the news, politicians will say, we are all French today. So did some kind of disaster happen to LGMs? Today we're all LGMs by heart. Distributed systems engineer job with CPP. I mean, so Chandu, is that a recommendation for what job I should consider? I don't know anything about that. Research in algorithms? Yes, I consider that. But like it's not absurd for me to do something like that. That being said, I went into different direction. N types of strings. N types of strings or N strings? Why is it N types of strings? I think it's just a translation error, just N strings. You perform the following operation once. Choose distinct integers I and j and concatenate, so glue together, combine, si and sj in this order. How many different strings can be obtained as a result of this operation? And n is small enough that we can do all the pairs. I think this should be solvable even if n is big, right? 100,000. While I solve it, I will think about it. But here still this is just about a brute force where we this time let's read the strings s of n. Now for every pair except for the equal pairs, so only if I not j, here we consider a string s of I plus s of j. If you want to know how many distinct strings can be obtained, the easiest possibility is to insert them into a set. Yes, a set can be named set, though I don't think it's very recommended. At the end you can print the size of the set. Now that being said, I usually wouldn't do things this way, and I will test on the sample test, but in a moment I will explain why this is not perfect really, what I did. A on in 11. Okay, let's submit. So this is, I think, here good enough, but far from optimal. It's so annoying that after verify you're human, I need to wait for full second or something like that, otherwise I get an error. So set is a very slow data structure. Instead, if you want to count number of distinct elements, what is faster, if you care about the runtime, is, for example, putting them in a vector, sorting and removing duplicates. And the time complexity is the same, because this thing, what we have is O of n squared, that is the number of strings, n squared times length of a single string, times log of n squared, so basically log of n, as this is time complexity of the set, the extra logarithm. Log of n and log of n squared is the same thing in terms of time complexity. So we have this, and this should be small. It's small enough because n is 100, length is 10, so this is like 1 million operations. maybe even less than that. Well, 1 million roughly. That being said, the code would be faster if I instead did vector, here vector pushback, then sort and resize after removing duplicates. Now this is a very strange command in C++. You can look up how to remove duplicates in C++ vector, but this should be faster than the set solution. I will submit it, though likely we will not see a difference in the verdict, because still the constraints are so low that it's negligible. It will be, a difference of milliseconds. That being said, if you care about the runtime of your program, so you're afraid that maybe your time complexity is not enough, it will be close to the time limit, then this is faster. Then even faster will be not collecting strings but their hashes, so creating, for example, vector of integers, for example, vector of longs after hashing the strings. And finally, I think that most likely we can avoid the double for loop. How would we do that? Well, if there is a repetition, it needs to be one string, let's say ABCDE, and then another string FGH. And then let's say ABC and another string DFGH. So we're talking about a string where its shorter prefix exists as well, and then another string where its shorter suffix exists, and those two, this guy and this one, they need to have a common part. So for the longer string, for every prefix of it that also exists in the input, and we can check that with hashes, we mark, if something starts with this prefix, also we mark that as a hash, mark it as something special. And then for this other string, when you get here after the E, you know that this was something special. So the remaining suffix, hash of it, check if it exists in the input, and if so, something happens. Now, what does it mean something happens? Do we subtract 1? Well, we would need to be careful what to do about multiple repetitions of the same concatenated string like this, but I think it's doable. Is that your dog sleeping behind you? Yes. That's the dog. Do I use other programming languages or only C++? I use a little bit of Python, Java. Do you feel teaching is boring as it gets repetitive? No, actually I don't think so. So what I'm doing, for example, today, it's not exactly teaching. I solve problems while explaining. It's a negligible difference, this thing. It's really just a variance in... So 1 millisecond of difference is nothing in those judging platforms. You send hello world and it can show you 1 millisecond or 5 milliseconds. LeetCode or Codeforces in the beginning? I guess LeetCode. Unless you know that you want to focus on competitive programming. Hi, Viking. Okay, so this is possible without n squared, but the organizers here did not require it. Yeah, regarding the teaching is boring, I still did not cover all the topics out there, and in particular, if I ever feel bored or something like that, I still know that I could go and cover like 100 more algorithms on YouTube, right? And I haven't done that yet, so no, it's not boring. 25% speed up. Well, maybe if we send the same code again, we will gain 2 milliseconds. There is an empty integer sequence. Oh, also one more thing. For easy problems, so for example, when I work with beginners or with, let's say, high school kids or middle school, something like that. Well, kids, students. I don't like giving them such formal statements, like choose distinct integers I and j. I would then phrase the problem as you're given a lot of strings. Count how many strings can be obtained by taking two of the strings from the input and concatenating, so gluing them together. I hate this phrasing of AdCoder for beginners. In advanced problems, in hard problems, sure, formal statement is perfectly fine. Solving CSS on stream, I think that makes sense. Also, I have Messenger on. I need to close some tabs. One moment. Right. What was I saying? Oh, CSS, yeah. The CSS problem set got expanded, and now there are many more problems. I guess it's something like it was 100 and now it's 200. Well, we can count that or estimate. How do I want to count it? I can count lines, right? Well, every problem comes with a with this character, the division. Will this tell me? No, it doesn't tell me. Well, from line 30 to line, oops. Wow. Is it 400 problems now? CSS is now 400 problems? That's a lot. Was 300, now 400. Okay, that's a little bit overwhelming. Still, it's good. I often recommend CSS problems to people. I think it's good problem set with some drawbacks. So you will have hard time using anything other than C++. Java and Python, some problems are close to unsolvable. And usually there is no example explanation, which is bad. Generally, example explanation is good because if somebody isn't sure about the statement, they will go there. And if they are sure about the statement, they will ignore it. So it's only a good thing. Well, maybe I will do streams for some topics like intro problems, DP, and what else? Geometry. I recall that somebody told me that my old code for one of the geometry problems does not work. I have that in my GitHub repository. So even more, it makes sense to do the geometry problems. And hard CSS, well, that's also some idea, though. I think I would skip some problems. By hard, you mean advanced? No, just additional problems? Some of those are about knowledge, and I would prefer not to do them. We'll see. Interactive problems too. Is there a category? Yes, there is. We'll see, we'll see. My plan for the following weeks, by the way, is that in the second half of July, so this, there is the IOI camp. Then in August, there will be paid dynamic programming classes. I will, in a few days, post about it on Codeforces. I mentioned about it during some of the streams in the last days. There will be two groups, the easy group, hard group, easy about problem solving easy problems like Knapsack, hard group about learning hard techniques like DP optimizations and practicing hard DP problems. And then what? In September, I have some on-site contests and stuff like that, so I will have some trips. But also I want to start here regular weekly classes. On again, 2 different levels, we'll see. So I think in July I will not start anything new, like, you know, a series of CSCS streams. Maybe in August, we'll see. Good intro to types of problems in AdCoder. What is that? So this is an explanation. AdCoder problems difficulty, how it translates to ABC, and so on. What percentage of people solve it, I guess. Can you summarize it for me? Math background, so formal statements feel rigorous to me. I mean, okay, but not everybody is from math background. Okay, next task, large queue. There's an empty integer sequence. You're given Q queries. You need to process them in the given order. 2 types. Add C copies of X to the end of A. So append X C times. Remove the first K elements and output the sum of the removed K integers. Okay, I think that's a reasonable, easy data structure / algorithm exercise. So normally if you keep adding elements, for example, you have new element 3, new element 5, 7, 10, 15, and so on, and you remove elements from the beginning, like initially the 3, then 5, and so on, and you need to report about them. The name of a data structure for that is a queue. But here we can possibly add 1 billion copies of something. So obviously we cannot insert 1 billion occurrences of 3000, but we can insert the value 3 with a count. Like, let's say 1000 times I inserted 3. So this time it will be a queue or similar data structure of pairs with the value itself and the number of repetitions, how many times it was inserted. Maybe then after that 11 was inserted once. It is possible that twice in a row we will have the same value, like here 11 appears once and then 11 appears 5 more times. You don't really need to collapse it because you don't need to detect that something can be compressed. You don't care, as long as you're able to take elements from the front. And now if somebody wants me to take 5 elements from the front, I know that there are at least 5 elements free, so I compute what is the sum, and then I decrease this by 5. If now somebody wants 1000 elements from the front, I will take those 995 elements and some more from here. The whole time I was talking about a queue that being set in competitive programming, almost everybody uses a vector for that, because it's very convenient, it has indices, and it's generally fast. In particular, remember this. In C++, in competitive programming, do not use dequeue, or dequeue, because it's for some reason very slow. You don't want to use it. It's just a terrible constant factor. Okay, so we have queue events. Repeat queue times. Read the type of the event. If type is 1, then we need to insert something new at the end. I will have a vector of pairs. Call this V, or actually, yeah, call it V. Read C, read X, V, pushback, and place back is like pushback for pairs. It's a little bit better to use it. I want to insert value x c times. It's a pair of value comma frequency, or number of copies. Else the type is apparently 2. We can even check that. If it's not true, then I will see this assert failing, and it means that I'm reading the input incorrectly. Read the value k, and I want to grab k elements from the front. While k exists, I want to take the first element in v, and now normally you will take v of 0, but in a vector I said that I use vectors instead of q. That being said, in a vector, erasing the first element is slow. If you try to do v erase v begin, you shouldn't do it a lot of times, because this is linear operation. You will get time limit exceeded because you will get in total quadratic solution, n squared or q squared. What instead I do, and again, most of people do it this way, q unfortunately also uses the q. What? Are you sure, Jaron? Because I think I used q in the past. So this would be big news for me. Let me ask my friends in some group conversation. Okay, I asked. DEC is not super slow, but it uses lots of memory. Well, using lots of memory also means that it affects runtime. Using n operations or running n operations is normally way faster than allocating n units of memory and doing something with it. Interesting. So we will maybe in a few minutes get the answer from some of my friends of should we also avoid a Q in C++ in competitive programming. Anyway, I'm using a vector, and to quickly erase things from the start, I will use an extra index of the start. And when you want to do operation of erasing the first element, I will just increase the start index by 1. So here I will refer to v of start, and if I need to remove the first element, I will do start plus plus. So what we're doing here is, if v of start dot second, so frequency, if it's smaller or equal than k, then remove this full pair. So start plus plus, at first, let's say k minus equal that. This is the case where I want to remove 100 first elements, but v of start is, let's say, element 3 repeated 90 times. 90 is smaller or equal 100, so I want to say that those 90 elements are all erased. I also need to collect the answer, the sum of elements, call it sum. So here, sum plus equal, I need to add to the sum 90 elements equal to 3. So, casted too long, v of start second times v of start first, count times the value. Otherwise, so if this is the case, k is 100, but v start, let's say, is element repeated 130 times, I want to only take 100 repetitions of it. So the sum increases by k times the value, and v of start second decrease by k. So from 130 elements, you will take 100 of them, 30 will remain. At the end, print or output the sum. Out of bounds. Assert starts smaller than v dot size. Failed. So I'm running out of the vector. Ring buffer with global row array is faster than Q. Well, that makes sense. Generally, arrays are crazy fast. And if you want to operate with one big data structure, then actually array is faster than a vector. Vector also uses pushbacks. So big static array is faster than a data structure where you insert elements and it possibly gets to that size. Why Jaron watches It's Super Easy for You? I think I also watched easy stuff in the past. Or I solved easy problems. Just, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I actually think that it makes a little bit more sense than people who tell me during streams that they understand nothing, but it's fun to watch or something like that. Well, I'm not sure if I would want to understand something where I understand nothing, but it's your choice. Okay, so this might be caused by some kind of logical error. Let's read the code once. Also, let's make sure that I'm properly reading that. Here we have 3 elements. So what's the order? C copies. The first is the count. We insert 2 times, 4 times, 6 times. In total, that's 12, and we erase 3 and then 5. Okay, greater than 0. You are inside of the bounds. If the frequency doesn't exceed k, then you want to remove it, but first update the sum. This one doesn't matter. This operation cannot affect the error that I'm getting, the error of going out of the array. This is important. Okay, decrease by that frequency. Okay, else increase the sum, whatever, and then this element gets decreased by that. Oh, and k becomes 0, right? Because here you're out of k, you don't want to continue. Alternatively, you could do a break here. 11 and 19 works. During a contest, you might want to also run your solution locally for the other samples to avoid getting time limit exceeded and a time penalty because of that. Accepted. Make geometric sequence. A bit longer statement. You're given an integer sequence A. The values are not 0. Check if there is a permutation of A such that B forms a geometric sequence. So can we reorder the given element so it would be geometric sequence? Then it needs to be increasing or decreasing, right? So should we just sort it increasingly? Oh, the values can be negative, I see. So we might have sequence 1, -2, +4, -8, +16, and so on. It could also be decreasing. But I think then still it's sorted if we ignore the signs. So maybe why this solution isn't time limit exceeded? Which solution? Oh, you mean the previous one? This one. So briefly, every element you will erase only once. So it seems that you have for loop inside a for loop, but this cannot happen that many times in total because you move only forward. So if there is some object that you insert, you will eventually erase it once. In total, n objects will be erased. So it's amortized time complexity, like in 2 pointers. It's kind of a 2 pointers solution. I think here we need to sort by the absolute value of the element. So we will ignore the signs for that. I had a OA. What is OA for MSFT today? Bomb the question. I mean, yeah, if you want to improve problem-solving abilities, you need to practice. Code forces for competitive programming, lead code for interviews, online assessment, I see. I don't think TechLover that I will get R, because R is a real value, so I would prefer to avoid that. But yeah, I'm going to here sort by the absolute value. And this time we have test cases. This line is an alternative way of typing repeated times. Okay, we want to sort. Given two elements x and y, I want to sort by the absolute value of them. This is how you sort with custom comparator. Now, what I could theoretically do is this: take a of 1 divided by a of 0. This is some kind of ratio. The values are not 0, so this will not divide by 0, and it's at least 2, so we have at least 2 values. And I could now verify if the ratio works for all of the following values. But using double is not really perfect. Later, what I will want to do anyway, so not perfect because of real values, so precision errors. I can get the wrong answer after comparing this to ratios of other integers, other ratios, other divisions. Instead, later I would anyway check this, if a of I plus 1 divided by a of I is equal to this. So I'm checking basically this equation, and here I can transform it to avoid the division. I don't even store here r as a fraction, I just transform equation and I will directly check it. I will never store the ratio, though I could. If I multiply both sides by a of 0 and a of I, then I will obtain this. And I'm going to check that for every I. Exactly this. Be careful if this was inequality, like that, then multiplying by both sides is dangerous if you deal with negative values. That could change the sign. But here it's just equality. So I'm going to check this without caring about what the ratio is. If a of 1, longs, otherwise overflow is what I would get. If this, then it's good. And if not this, then this is bad. What do we output? No. And return. I don't want to output no multiple times. If nothing happened, yes. No, that's not good. Maybe I messed something up. Again, a of 1 divided by a of 0 is equal to a of I plus 1 divided by a of I. So a of 1 times a of I. Yeah, it's the other way around. Yes, no, yes, that works. F is the only interesting problem of this contest. I think, Milind, that, for example, here, the fact that we should avoid real values and instead we can transform the equation is also something that I want to encounter and explain during my streams. And I wonder what I messed up. Can I get some more information? 3 accepted, a lot of wrong answer. Interesting. Maybe it's not enough to sort like I'm sorting. What if all values are equal by the absolute value? So 5, negative 5, 5, negative 5, 5, negative 5. I need to do them exactly in this order and not at random. So I think the counter test would be like this. If I have 10 values and those are 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, negative 1, negative 1, negative 1, negative 1, and so on. My program says no, but the answer should be yes. The answer should be yes, because I can put every second number as positive and every second as negative. We can either fix the sorting or we can do a special check here. If absolute value of the first element is equal absolute value of the last, sure, that's why I enjoy your streams. Yeah, so I mean, I agree that this is not an interesting problem to somebody experienced. So in particular, I wouldn't do it if I only practiced to improve, but I'm doing this stream so that you, watchers, viewers, would improve. If this is the case, then it means everything, as I sorted increasingly by the absolute value, if still the first and last absolute value are the same, it means everything is equal. I need to check if I can rearrange them positive, negative, and so on, or negative, positive, and so on. Instead of actually arranging them like that, I'm going to just check if it's possible by counting positive and negative. Neg is 0, pos is 0 for every element. If x greater than 0, then positive plus plus, else negative. Now, if either the difference between them is at most 1, so for example, you have 5 positive values and 4 negative, then you can arrange them like that. But also if positive is 0 or negative is 0, so you have just all equal values, in all those cases you output yes and you stop. Should work. I think otherwise we can here stop, but it's not needed. Let this check go anyway. It doesn't hurt that later we will check if in my sorted order the ratio is the same. The logic should just not detect that. Hence, I didn't do the else here in this place, but I think I could. In this place, I think I could do else cout no. Hi, Akshay. Accepted. Okay. Let's move on. I think 1, negative 1, 1, and so on. Why? Why do you think this would be wrong answer? Because this if will not be applied. So I will sort them in order of 1s, 2s, 222, and then this will be detected as false. So I think everything is fine. Okay, problem E. You're given a permutation of size 2 at power something. These streams help a lot, thank you. You're welcome. Though I wonder if the format is optimal, because it's not that really I spent a lot of time on every problem. I solve it and I move on, right? Maybe instead I should, after solving a problem, always I could do a summary, like in 5 minutes, present it with drawings, stuff like that. Well, not sure. Instead, I think it's more that you're getting collection of small pieces of advice. Yes, competitive programming will exist after AGI, like a lot of other hobbies. Though it can be smaller and less important. So you have permutation of numbers from 1 to 2 at power n. You repeat the following operation. Choose two integers satisfying this. This inequality is strange. What? How can this be not true? Why didn't just they say this? A times 2 at power b is smaller than a plus 1 times 2 at power b. If the integers are non-negative, then this is automatically true, right? Because this is at least 1. What? And also this is automatically true. Why did they say this? Choose two non-negative integers a, b. So 0 or more. Then obviously this inequality is satisfied and this inequality is satisfied. Strange. You only check if the numbers are all the same. No, that was part of my code. I checked that here if all the numbers are the same by the absolute value, but then there was that standard check that I did first of comparing the ratios. Okay, back here. So I will just focus on this inequality. A plus 1 times 2 at power b doesn't exceed 2 at power n. And then we reverse this range from here to here. So like a range of size 2 at power something. And we reverse. Find the lexicographically smallest permutation p that can be obtained by repeating the operation. Oops. A and b are not indices, can be greater than n2. Yeah, and this is why I understand this inequality, this one. This is something we need to check, but I don't know why we have those two inequalities. Because what I'm highlighting now should be true anyway for any two non-negative integers a and b. And it doesn't depend on n, because in highlighted part there is no n. If b is 0, and then this is 1, it's just to show that it is always a subarray of the permutation. Yeah, but I find this confusing. Wait, and now if b is 0, then we are reversing a range from a to a. I think so. What if b is 1? Then it's a range from 2a to 2 times a plus 2 minus 1. I think 2 times a plus 1. if b is 3, we are reversing a range from 4 times a to 4 times a plus 3, I'm guessing. So this can reverse any 2 consecutive values, 4 consecutive values, but only in blocks of 4. It seems that if I have a long sequence, I can reverse the first 4 elements, I can reverse the next 4 elements, I can reverse, I'm guessing, the first 8 elements, I can reverse the first 2 elements, or the next 2 elements, the next 2 elements, and so on. And they're asking what is the smallest permutation I can obtain. Well, the smallest value ever will go to the front, or maybe I will not think like that. I will solve it recursively. So I will think about the first half of the array and the second half of the array. Each of them solve optimally. And then you wonder if we should reverse the whole thing. Like if, okay, let's work with 8 elements. Say that we have 8 elements. I run recursively on the first 4 and I will obtain some optimal order. Let's say this. I run on the second 4 and I obtain optimal order. Now I wonder if now I can reverse the whole 8 elements. Whether I want to do it depends on what is the smallest element among C versus E. They are distinct because initial numbers are distinct. Let's say that E is smaller than C. Then what I want to obtain is first this and then that. I can always obtain that because I reverse the whole thing and then again reverse those 4 elements and those 4 elements. For example, let's say that the sequence is 2, 1, no, 3, 4, 2, 1. Running recursively here, I obtain that the smallest I can obtain is 3, 4. For this, smallest I can obtain is 1, 2. Now I compare those 2 elements or pairs of elements and I see 1 is smaller than 3, so I want to move it to the front. And I think about reversing all the 4 elements. By reversing, I would get 2, 1, 4, and 3. But I know that each of those can be reversed back to its own optimal form. So actually, I will get 1, 2, 3, 4. Which means that really, when looking at those 2 optimal orders for each of this pair internally, I just choose the smaller of the pairs to be first. And that should happen in general, which is, oops, read n, then you have a sequence of size 2 at power n, read all the values, you don't need to iterate index, you can also do it like that, and then solve recursively. Passing a copy of a vector like this is not really very fast, but it will be good enough here. 2 at power 18 multiplied by logarithms, even with big constant factor, it's fine. If size is 1, then you don't need to do anything. And otherwise, you have the left half and the right half. Left half, right half. When you create a vector, you can provide the iterators of start and end. Solve recursively. Actually, you don't need to return if you pass by reference, and it will be automatically faster. So solve recursively L, solve recursively right. Now, if L of 0 is smaller than R of 0, and those elements are distinct, then you want to copy L plus R, otherwise you want to copy R plus L. Let's say what I will do is, in this case, I will swap them. And then no matter what, I want to return L plus R. You can do it like that. L insert at the end, everything from R begin to R end. And A is L. By the way, when reading the statement, before I finished reading the statement, I guessed what it will be about, that it will be blocks of size power of 2, like first 4, next 4, and so on. It seemed not really obvious, but it seemed intuitive that this is what they will really mean with those operations that are possible. Okay, 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 4. Oh, that's incorrect. That is incorrect. Oh, it's correct. I was looking at the input instead of output. 1, 4, 2, 3, and so on. Seems good. What about 2, 3, 4, 1? 2, 3, 4, 1. Well, I will solve this half optimally, 2, 3. This half optimally, 1, 4. And then I can put 1, 4 before 2, 3. So I claim that this is optimal. And regarding the previous comment from Jawin, I think I would, if I wrote the statement, I would leave only this inequality, because only this means that we are inside of the 2 power n range. If you want to convey that it's a range that fully fits from 0 to something, then just say it. Okay, let's submit. I wonder if for people working on AIs, including OpenAI, if this is the button specifically for them, so they wouldn't spam so much training their solutions. Actually, do you think that companies like OpenAI, they will have a deal, or they have a deal with AdCoder or Codeforces to have direct access to the tests? Maybe not. Is that easier for them? Well, they have a lot of computational power, so maybe they would prefer to run things on site. Also, on Codeforces, I saw an announcement that there is AdCoder heuristic contest soon. I think it's for the finals in Japan. AdCoder. Oh, I lost it. So I think people are going to Japan for the on-sites, and there will be heuristic contests, so optimization contest with a stream of human versus AI. I wonder what this will be about. Okay. Next task. No passage. Somebody said that it's the only interesting problem in this contest. Could you briefly explain how you quickly figure out that problems like this are divide and conquer and not something else? It's a tricky question what you're asking. How did I know that it's divide and conquer? Well, I first understood the process. I understood what they are saying, that it boils down to the fact that I can swap those two this pair, this pair, this pair, and so on. So initially I didn't know that it's divide and conquer, but I visualized what I can do. Then I would argue that this visualization already looks like divide and conquer, or like a segment tree, right? Because we have the full thing and halves and so on. And then I knew that for every pair here, I can put them in whatever order I want. This thing also. And now I thought how the first and second pairs will interact with each other. And I figured out eventually that, yeah, we can just, the smaller of those two pairs will be first. And just the fact that a half interacts with other half to create a bigger part, this is how divide and conquer works. To be honest, when I said recursion, I didn't even think divide and conquer in my head. Yes, it happens to be divide and conquer, but recursion just was for me the easiest way to implement my thoughts. How would we solve for any range? I mean, Takeover, if we can do any range, then we would just sort the sequence, right? Because for b equal to 0, what you provided is any range. I mean, if you can always sort two neighbors, if you can swap two neighbors, then you will sort the whole sequence. If in particular you can swap this. Okay, now onward to problem F. Long statement, but somebody said it's worth it. There is a grid. K cells are goals or targets. The two players play a game and a single piece on the grid. We perform the following series of operations until the piece reaches one of the targets. Aoki chooses an integer from 1 to 4. Then Takahashi chooses an integer from 1 to 4, but a different one. Let ij be the current position. Then we move the piece. Okay, so that was direction. Aoki chooses one of 4 directions, and Takahashi needs to choose a different direction and moves there. It seems that this is what everything boils down to. So Aoki chooses one direction that will be forbidden for Takahashi. I will call them Alice and Bob. For Bob, Bob chooses one of 3 remaining directions. But if he chooses a direction that moves the piece outside of the grid, then nothing happens. Bob's objective is to minimize the number of moves until we reach one of the targets. Aoki to prevent that from happening. And Aoki is apparently a man because it says his, so Alice was not really perfect choice for me for the name. For all pairs of integers, solve the following problem. Okay, find the sum. Okay, will it be some kind of DP? How to be focused? How to be focused? You can write one question and wait for the answer. I guess that's more about being patient, but it's related. I don't know how to be focused. I think if we search in Google for how to be focused, you will get a lot of results. In particular, for example, don't watch TikTok. I think this is what destroys the attention span. So also it makes it harder to focus for a long time. Is bit manipulation important for competitive programming in interviews? Yes, a little bit, like many other topics. Had a meeting recently and 2 people had names Alice and Bob. Did they like each other? Is there a chance that they will form a relationship? If so, they need to name their kids also in some alphabetical order. Like, Charlie, Derek, Eve, Alice and Bob. Okay, and this seems to be some simple DP. I don't know if there will be any kind of analysis here. It's, well, DP, but we cannot do things in order from top left because we don't know optimal order of movement here. But if there, I need a drawing for that. Maybe this. If there is the target somewhere, this is one of the goals, then you can put value 0 here. If you start here, the number of moves is 0. Why the dog sleeps too long? What is he supposed to do in the apartment? Also, he's an old dog. He's 9 years old. So this is the majority of time for him. How long should a dog sleep per day? Here we go. And how long should 9-year-old German Shepherd sleep? 12 to 15 hours. Like if you're wondering, he's alive. Just he's used to the fact that morning to afternoon he doesn't get much affection. So my wife is at work and I also try to work. And he's used to the fact that in the morning and in the evening, like late afternoon to evening, there is more activity. Plus, we had a walk just before the stream. Okay, back here. What about neighboring cells? For this cell, normally we would say that the answer is 1, because from here you can make a single move. That being said, Alice will forbid this move. And this will be minimum of remaining cells. It seems that for the game to actually not go infinitely, there needs to be here a second cell that also is the target, the goal. Also we've written 0 here. So that now from here, Alice will forbid one of those two directions, but Bob will choose the other. So we can put a value 1 here. And always for every cell, once 2 neighbors are chosen, because by default in those DPs or Dijkstra or BFS, you can put infinity there. Infinity, infinity, infinity. And what this problem boils down to is that DP of any cell is second minimum of neighbors plus 1. That's because Alice will forbid the first minimum. Alice will forbid one direction, the one that leads to shortest game. If for a cell the neighbors are 1, infinity, 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 then this cell stays at infinity. Alice forbids one direction and Bob will choose one of the infinities. If you have 2 neighbors that are already non-infinity, for example, this one is a 3, eventually something happened and we put a 3 here. Now we know what to put here. It will be a 4. And like usually in BFS or Dijkstra, we will go increasingly from smallest values. So it's not that we will miss something. It's not that later this infinity suddenly will change into a 1, so that we are incorrect to here put a 4. No, we go increasingly through values, so that when we see a 3 here, and because of that we put a 4 here, because that's second minimum among neighbors, which is 3 plus 1, so a 4. Later the infinities will also change only into a 4, or worse. What keyboard? Some old Logitech keyboard. They don't sell it anymore. Lessons about heavy light decomposition? Don't think so, no. Senior citizen indeed. The dog, I mean. Gaurav, for your previous question, I think the question and the answer to it would be very complicated. How to, you know, revise concepts and keep them. I don't know how to reply to that fast. Well, maybe after I finish this contest, so there is F task and after that G, I will then spend a little bit more time answering questions. Okay, so initially all the G's, all the goals from the statement or from the input, we mark as zeros. And then we need to use recursion, not recursion. We need to use BFS or BFS style algorithm to go from smallest values. And always for when we put a value somewhere, we need to check if for any neighbor, now it has at least 2 filled neighbors. And if so, we now also can put something there. Also, what about stuff at the side of the grid? So if there is a number that has nothing on the right, then do we treat that as infinity? I think so. If at the bottom we have a 1, and here we have infinity and infinity, what will be there? Alice will forbid going down, and then going anywhere here, well, that's infinity or a cycle. So yeah, the outside of the grid should be treated as infinity, I believe. To make it easier to handle, I'm going to actually assume that infinities are outside. So for example, if the grid is 3 by 3, my indices will go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 for rows and columns. And well, the actual array that I store will be h plus 2 times w plus 2 to account for that, to account for the extra infinities. So if the grid is like that, then actually in my memory, in the array, I will have this, everything outside is infinity. So long since the last time you streamed. Actually, I streamed yesterday. Okay. It's unlucky that it's actually a nice problem, but such a long statement. I think I wouldn't, as an author, write all of those things so formally. All right, what do we have in the input? Why is the number of targets up to 3000? That's strange. I'm not using that fact. Yeah, that's suspicious. If it was a Division 1 contest and not for beginners, I would now stop and think a few more minutes about it. That maybe my solution is incorrect because I'm not using the fact that the number of targets is small. Strange. Okay, what follows those initial stuff? Okay, so we have the grid. I'm increasing the size by 2 to avoid ifs about going outside of the grid because it's n squared log n. No, my solution is of h times w times log. I can also do it without logarithm, but whatever. K is not part of my time complexity. I mean, this will be how I initialize the, let's say, BFS, but I don't have K squared. And I can imagine there exist other solutions that rely on interaction between the target cells, but I think those solutions would be way more complicated. Okay, by default, fill with infinity. A of row column is equal to 0, and you want to do it as a BFS, so just some kind of queue, push back row column. Just like in one of the previous problems, actually I'm not using a queue, I'm using a vector. This is what I always do. Wait, what was the way to untie a pair in a single operation? Was it like that? Does it compile? You need to start using modern C++. Yeah, it's like this. Okay, so we take row column, and now for each of 4 neighbors, I need to update it if it has at least 2 non-infinities as neighbors. I don't remember my Cyrillic. Hello, Abdinabiev? Good enough? Abdinadiev? I used to be able to read Cyrillic, but it was several years ago. CP only relevant for red coders? No, I don't think so. We have calculators, and yet math, I think, is important. In particular, TechLover, that wouldn't work. If here's a code that is undefined behavior, defined behavior, vector with 3 elements. For every element in the vector, if it's a 20, push back 40. It's important to keep in mind when using vectors in C++ that you cannot iterate the vector like this with a for loop, iterating elements directly, not using indices, and push back inside. You might think that this will just push back 40 at the end and that's it. Not entirely true, because a pushback can move the full vector in memory and the for loop will be broken. So this is undefined behavior, and for the same reason, we are not allowed to here do it as a for loop without indices. That's a big disadvantage of using a vector instead of a queue. If I did for the auto row column, maybe with ampersand, with the reference, I don't think that matters. This will fail if I here push back something to the vector. This is why I used indices. Okay, here I want to do for every neighbor, count its neighbors. Get neighbors. I wonder if this will work like that as a one-liner. Row plus direction first. And now v in place back rc. Though this will get me stuff from the board. Well, we'll see. Okay, for every RC among get neighbors of row column, let's go full screen. Print resources to learn data structure concepts like graphs. No. He's read Don't Teach lesson to Eric though. Oh, I strongly disagree with that sentence. I'm red, which means I'm good at algorithms. That being said, I'm not, that good at C++. It's perfectly fine. And actually, a minute before TechLover posted the comment with that for auto, I said out loud that I don't remember how to do this and I need to start using modern C++. So after that, it was perfectly reasonable to give me a piece of advice about how to do it shorter. Red coders are not necessarily good at programming language, at knowledge about it, but they will know how to do any basic stuff in some way. It's maybe not the shortest or newest way. Okay, for every neighbor, you need to now count if it now has 2 neighbors. First, if a of RC is equal to infinity. Now count the neighbors, maybe this. For every its neighbor, and now I think we can get outside of the grid, so we need to be careful. Side. V pushback A of R2 C2. Not V, V was already used. So I know, neighbors, nay. And then sort the neighbors. And you want to use second minimum. If neighbor of 1, that's second value. If this is not infinity, then we do something. My own value, RC, is equal 1 plus that second minimum. And to the Q, oh, the V was actually not used yet. Well, whatever. And place back RC. Compilation error. Apparently it's not enough to put those brackets and hope that it knows that it's a vector of pairs or a list of pairs. Okay, at the end, what am I supposed to do? Output a single value, the sum of everything. Okay. A of row call is not infinity. Finally, we here have a cell that is inside the grid. If I go to neighbor, it can be on the boundary. And then this can be even outside of the boundary. So I think here we need to do if at least this. Otherwise, I would get runtime error. What I could have done is I could put 2 layers of extra walls surrounding my grid, and then I wouldn't have this issue. Let's see. 2. That's, I think, a very weak test. Not in 43. Okay. Let's run. Again, in a contest, run all the tests from the statement. So there was a 3rd test. I was just lazy. During a stream, I'm not penalized with, for every wrong attempt. Oh, actually, it's incorrect. So I will get wrong answer. Yeah. I failed one sample and I failed a lot of big tests. Okay, I did not expect that. Please teach me heavy light decomposition. Look, if you pay 100 something euro per hour, I can teach you. Just make a border of 2 cells instead of 1 cell. Exactly. Richter, how are you doing today? I'm okay. And yeah, let me repeat the logic, because maybe when repeating the logic, I will realize what I'm doing wrong. The task said that there are 2 players, Alice and Bob, let's say, and in the big grid, there are some cells that are targets or goals. So this might be a goal, this might also be a goal, and there are a few other such cells. We consider starting somewhere. For every cell, we consider that maybe we start from there. And what Alice does as the first player is she chooses some direction to be forbidden. And then what Bob does is he chooses one of the remaining 3 directions and he goes there. In particular here, he will go directly to the goal because it's optimal. And then after one move, we are at the goal and the game stops. If instead we started here, most likely Alice would forbid this direction. Then Bob would go here. Then Alice would forbid one of those 2 directions and Bob would get to the target after 2 steps. So the answer for this cell is 1, for this cell is 2, for this one is 0, 0, 0. And for this cell, by the way, it would be 3, because we would forbid here, Bob would go there, and so on. For this one, it's also 3, for this one is 4, for this one, I think it's 5. And the general logic, for this one, it will be 1. General logic is that for every cell, if the answer is already computed for some of your neighbors, for example, for this neighbor of yours, the answer is 2. So if you are here, the game will last for 2 more steps. Here the answer is 4, or maybe let's say 5. Here 8, and here it's not computed yet, so infinity by default. Then at every cell, its answer is, well, Alice will forbid the direction to the cell leading to shortest game. Bob will choose the second best, so the shortest among the remaining, so basically the second minimum. And Bob will basically go there, which means that we will put here value 6, generally second minimum plus 1. And that's my code. My code is that in BFS order, we always check all my neighbors, and for each of them, so once I'm updated, I need to think about it for some more. Maybe I actually need priority queue. I did BFS. When I'm updated to some value, I check my neighbors, and for each of them, I check if now you have at least 2 non-infinite values as neighbors. Solved 380 on LeetCode. I can solve a single one on my own. Wait, you're saying you solved 380 problems, but you cannot solve a single problem on your own? Even the easiest ones? If so, I will be straight with you, that you shouldn't do algorithms. Cat doesn't go to sun for nothing. I don't disagree, but I don't know why you're saying that. Is there a way for me to analyze this? No. 157 is too much. Let me check something. Let me check if after this process, for every cell, if I here again collect assert a of row column is equal to 1 plus second minimum. So create a vector made of neighbors. Sort. And now assert A of row column equals infinity and v of 1 is infinity, or A of row column is not infinity and A of row column is equal to 1 plus 1 plus v of 1, or A of row column is equal to 0. That's one of the targets from the input. Okay, interesting. The assert failed. Let's see if it doesn't fail for the other two tests. Sadly, I overwritten them. I overrode them. Normally, I call tests in2, in3, but here I did not. Okay, I think I'm very lucky that my assert fails because it will be way easier to analyze. If you have wrong answer, then yeah, there are so many things that can be wrong. But this is a test. This is a test. This whole building is quite new, and still in a lot of apartments still people do not live, and instead there are some work, renovation, a lot of drilling and stuff like that. And when the dog hears that, he will bark. 500 here. Yeah, guys, if you solved hundreds of problems, but all of that with editorials, then, I mean, that's fine, you can do it, but don't expect that to suddenly change. I guess it's like solving Sudoku and every time looking up answers and putting few digits from there. There's nothing wrong with it if that's your hobby, but it just means that Sudoku is not for you. Name of the dog, Oscar. Okay, this strongly suggests that my order here is wrong. Let me think about it. I think I kind of assumed that yeah, by the way, sorry that my soul just left my body. I'm guessing it refers to that barking. How loud is it compared to my voice? Was it very loud? Cell updated more than one time. I don't allow it, but maybe. I think I can at the end output everything. Well, I got something. Maybe I want to know where this fails. But it would need to be without that. Yeah. Close to the end. Wait, at the very end? No. Around here, somewhere in this row. 1 0. Okay, for these 5 things do not work. How did this happen? Why is this guy a 5? Second minimum among neighbors is a 2, so this should be a 3. Now let's get back here. Also, one more thing. If I output a of row column and then return 0, do we visit things in increasing order? Oh, no, we do not. Why? I mean, I could, during a contest, I would just here slap priority queue or set on the top of this and I would get accepted. I want to understand it though. I thought that what happens is when I see some number, something changes from infinity to non-infinity, it can trigger a neighbor to now have at least 2 neighbors. So automatically its value will become my value plus 1. Right? So the moment when this value, let's say, changes from infinity to 5, I check the neighbors, and if for this neighbor of mine now it has 2 neighbors in total that are not infinity, then its value updates. And it will update always to 6, I thought. Apparently that's not the case. But I first do all the zeros. How can this one, it becomes a 1 because it has 2 neighbors of 0. But when the second of the zeros is considered, okay, so a 0 updated its neighbor, and it will be a neighbor of this guy. Then for here, it has a neighbor. I think there could be updated values updated to 6 earlier. Then such a 5 and a 6 together give us 7, which gets added to the queue quite early. Okay, so 5 updates a neighbor of 6. Let's say 6 also had a 2. There can be other 6s that were before or are after. This 6 is somewhere in the middle. I mean, it's a new 6. Some other 6s were already in the queue. This 6 will go after a lot of other 6s. Now after this 5, I consider some other 5. And this other 5, so maybe I'm doing this first, then I go to this other 5, and this other 5 sees a neighbor that now has 2 neighbors like this, and we put a 7 here. So this is now not monotonic, because now maybe there we have another 5 which is here. I consider it third, and now this 5 and this 5 will have a neighbor with now 2 non-infinite neighbors, and I will put a 6 here. But the order how I inserted things is first I inserted 6, then a 7, then a 6. So now it's not monotonic, 6, 7, 6. Okay, got it. Random, stop spamming. Okay. Yeah, so apparently it's a little bit more complicated than I thought. So priority queue, I think, yeah. Actually, I always implement Dijkstra and similar things with a set. Call it set. Okay. Set insert a pair of 0 row column while not set empty. Auto row call. I wonder if this will work. This is set begin second and the star. And then erase set begin. Queue in place back. Set insert. ARC and RC. Okay, what do you want? Will you work without the star? Yes, it works. So also brackets are necessary. Cool. Try now. Still doesn't work. If I remove the assert, will it work? It stopped working. I mean, it worked. It works differently now. I messed something up. Okay, random. Last warning. Stop spamming. Okay. Oh, and obviously now, if this is Dijkstra style, then we need to, sometimes we insert things multiple times. For example, we might update a of 2, 2 into value 7, but later we might update it into value, a better value, like a 6. Then this 7 should be ignored. So set erase. If a of row column is not equal set begin. Okay. So if I encounter a pair with the first value being different than what is written in the array, so the best value ever, then ignore it. Though I don't see how that causes wrong answer. It only slows the program down a little bit. Yeah, still wrong. So always take the first. If you're looking at infinity, or now we should just do it always. Maybe. Oops. How is this infinite now? No, I need to say if this is better than what A of RC is right now. If this is an improvement, then I do this. Still infinite? +1. Okay. I think it's still wrong, right? No, it's good. So now I fixed it into a proper Dijkstra logic. The asserts are necessary, but I guess I can leave them. So it was, I think, a nice problem. I struggled a little bit, but that's okay too sometimes. I think it's educational to see mistakes. I thought BFS is enough. I thought that something will be in monotonic order. I got wrong answer. I eventually was able to produce order where things are not monotonic and I get sequence in non-increasing order. I fixed BFS into Dijkstra. Time limit exceeded. Is it a constant factor or did I mess something up? Four time limits. And we see runtimes of 2700 milliseconds. 2.5 is the limit, or maybe they kill it after that much time. I don't think that using set is a bottleneck here. I think that what hurts is that for every element what I do is I iterate neighbors and iterate neighbors again inside, which takes a lot of time, and then I sort those neighbors. So the log from set actually will not be bigger than this 4 times 4, and then inside you push back things. What we want to do instead is I can pre-compute neighbors for every cell, or change this into some kind of one-liner like I did in the here for the sake of computing assert. But I still think the set is not the issue here, because this set will be set operations will be done not that many times, I believe, or maybe every time we see an improvement. Actually, it's not clear to me if we will see an improvement h times w times, or maybe this times 16. Let me pre-compute neighbors. I just want to know if I put good number of characters. Okay. Neighbors. Okay, for everything. Neighbors of row column, and place back this. I think we computed neighbors. For everything among neighbors of row column. For this among neighbors of RC. Still works? No. No, it does not. I here don't have neighbors of the stuff on the boundary. Maybe I should. because that was the logic before. Yep. And let's try now. So getting neighbors for a cell will be now so much faster because it's already computed. But it's also possible that the bottleneck came from the set usage. I just think that it's not the case. Fastest way to become experts. Solve problems. Grid is always annoying to work with. I don't think it's that annoying. It's unusual that I needed to iterate neighbors of neighbors. In particular, it increases the runtime times 16. And it seems like it's not optimal. I don't know. Still time limit exceeded. Okay, set it is. Sorry, priority queue it is. Where's my set? Top. I don't remember all the operations. And now I want to do it in the opposite order. So do I now need to here type greater and a lot of stuff here? Like this? I don't remember exactly. No. How priority queue will increase the performance here? It's significantly faster than set. If you don't need set operations, then, well, priority queue is simpler, so faster. Oh, it's greater without anything extra? Still doesn't work. Vector then greater. Vector then greater. I don't understand. And in both places I insert that. Okay, thank you. It's great that my priority queue is called set. Beautiful variable name. I again got 4 time limit exceeded. Thank you, detective, by the way, for telling me how to do this. So how to reverse the order in priority queue. Still time limit exceeded. Also, I wanted to do the stream today for 90 minutes and we are at 2 hours. But I will take a look at the last problem after I get rid of this time limit exceeded. Maybe it actually is important that there are 3000 elements in the input. Maybe the solution is completely different. Why is it not faster? It's hard for me to test locally because it's, I think, hard to create a good max test. I don't know how good a random test would be. I think it would be bad. Maybe if you just put the targets on the main diagonal, that makes sense. Not sure. What about this for a speed up? Now, since we are doing things in increasing order, I think we will always assign our neighbor to my value plus 1. So I think it's correct when trying my neighbors to say if a of r c is greater than a of row column plus 1, then only then do this. And moreover, it's enough here to count non-infinite neighbors if a of r to c2 is not infinity, then count plus plus. If count is at least 2, then do this. Also, we can hear if a of rc is not infinity. Oh no, I have priority. Never mind. I wanted to erase the old element, but that's possible only in the set. I messed up. I want to make sure that I didn't make some stupid bug in the code that I've just done. For this neighbor of mine, if it would be improved as my value plus 1, then check if that neighbor has at least 2 non-infinite neighbors. If so, then it becomes second minimum, which should be myself plus 1. Well, apparently that's not correct. Maybe this if at least is correct. Seems so. So this will be faster by constant factor. You don't check neighbors that are equal to you or smaller. You can maintain 2 minimum of a cell. Yes, I can. By the way, for such a small thing, like if that for every cell I maintain neighbor values, priority queue of size 2 or something like that isn't even optimal. You should just use array or vector. You can use this to generate huge test cases. If it's just a tool to generate tests, how does that help? Chandu, TC frame. TC frame. C++ framework for generating test cases of competitive program problems. I don't have issue in using randomness, but here it's just very difficult to do it. How do you want the test to look like? It's not that some tool will tell me how to generate a strong test in this particular problem. Well, I can speed up this a little bit. The input-output reading cannot be the issue because we don't have much. Well, let me generate some test. I'm putting things on the main diagonal. Right, grid of 5 by 5, 5 targets, 1 1 2 2 and so on up to 5 5. Now we wonder how much time it will take if I run 3000 by 3000. A lot of time. 3.5 seconds. Also, I don't know why sometimes the real time is so much smaller. There's something wrong, I think, with time command on my machine. Maybe because it's a virtual machine. What about getting rid of the pairs and storing cells as the hashes? Yeah, that can help. I want to first make sure that this part of the code is slow. Well, already this part takes a second. So I guess push back into a vector. I can replace that with inserting to an array. That will be something. So this takes 1 second. And I'm guessing it's because of that operation. Some constant optimization. Okay, do I want to bother with this? How to join your Discord? Isn't there a link on Twitch? Guys on Twitch, can you type !Discord? There will be a link. And I think it's a very simple link, like something like discord.gg/Erichto. Yeah, this thing. So this will copy it for you. I'm not a Vim user. Well, let's compress things into integers, I guess. Get hash or something, given row and column, return row times this plus column. So now this is vector of ints. For every direction. I guess we can put things here already. If this if you're inside the bounds, the neighbors of get hash of row column pushback get hash of RC. From now on, we will use integers, not pairs. Also, the priority queue now doesn't have pairs here, just single integers. Get hash of row column. Okay, now this is auto cell A of this. Should this still be two-dimensional? No, I don't think so. But all of this seems very annoying, and this is supposed to be an easy problem, right? I'm now flattening the grid. It will be one-dimensional. Instead of 3 by 3, it would be an array of size 9. Woof woof. Okay, so we grab this. If A of cell for every cell 2, if A of cell 2 greater than A of cell plus 1, for every cell 3 among neighbors of cell 2, this is already checked. Cell 3 sort cell 2 cell 2 cell 2 cell 2, and here let's get rid of the assert, but the only thing I will do is get hash of row column, then get the answer from get hash of row column. Well, this was annoying. Not very time consuming, but still annoying. And there is low chance that I got it right. Well, I got it right in terms of correctness. And for time, it's a little better. It was 3.5 seconds. I'm going to submit. But this would be such an embarrassment during a contest. Right? What was, for example, the previous task? Reverse that. I solved that, what, in 1 minute. After understanding the statement, I had the idea for a solution in 1 minute, and coding was, I don't know, 5 minutes, unless I made some bug. And for this task, I spent an hour. Yeah, 1 hour, 10 minutes. Pushback on pre-computing produces memory allocations. I agree. Yes, one of the speedups I said I consider is to here avoid pushback and instead have arrays. Also here I have a small vector to which I push back and sort. That's not perfect. I would argue that if we want to allow solutions like mine, then the constraints and versus time limit are very tight. So I'm guessing that the intended solution is just 4 times faster than my solution. Okay, what next? I will populate this with vectors of 4 negative ones. And here, instead of pushbacking, what I'm doing is this. For every element inside of this vector, if it's -1, then replace it with the value and break. After this, you have some unnecessary -1s. So what I will do is for everything inside of neighbors, if there is at least one -1, but this will only happen on the boundary, then while v back is -1, then pop back. Now I think it's faster because only some vectors will be, reallocated. It's significantly faster. It was 3 seconds. So I think the preprocessing got 3 times faster. Next speed up is here I want the second minimum among some values. Second minimum you can maintain using 2 variables, min1, min2. For everything, a of cell 3. If x smaller than min1 equals x, but first min2 equals min1. Else, if x smaller than min2 is x. Min2. Oops. Down to 1.3. Let's submit. But all of this should not be necessary. The next speed up would be for every cell to maintain the 2 minima. And then when some cell changes, for all the 4 neighbors, I only try to update those 2 minima. Though it's tricky, because it's not that I just maintain 2 minima as values and I put the third value there. Instead, I need to realize if my old value was one of those 2 minima and I should replace it. Or I'm a new value that should be next to those 2 existing minima. Okay, got accepted, barely. Now, how do you do it fast? So 2 things. First, standings. I want to see somebody strong in the leaderboard. Obviously, they solved it in like a few minutes. Can I see the code? Yes, I can. Take something from the front. Wait, so this is a queue. It's some. There is no logarithm here even. What about the editorial? No editorial. Now I remember that my first code didn't have priority queue, but it was BFS style, and I knew that it doesn't make sense. I mean, I found a counterexample, so why does this make sense? What is happening here? We maintain degree, and I guess the DP value. We grab a cell. For each of 4 neighbors, if it's inside the bounds, decrease the degree. By default, the degree is 2. if the degree becomes 2, then do this. How is that not equivalent to my first code? You can see the Japanese editorial by clicking above no editorial. Well, we do. From Japanese, I don't know much Japanese, but I think those 3 characters you can read in Japanese as BFS. How is this different from what I did first? So my intuition to try the BFS was good. It matched the difficulty of the problem. But I thought that we're seeing a counterexample here for the order. If I have multiple 5s, it's possible that I will see a neighbor and I will update it as a 6. Then another 5 will see a neighbor and it will update it as a 7. Wait, no. This 7 doesn't exist yet for this 5. I see how what I did is different from what they are doing. When my 5 updates a neighbor into 6, but 6 waits in the queue, it's not yet visible from a 7. So this is not yet processed. When I consider this 5 and it looks at this neighbor of 7, it tells the 7, well, right now it's infinity. It tells this infinity, hey, you have a neighbor that is not infinity. But the infinity does not yet see the left neighbor. So it doesn't change itself into a 7, at least not yet. Only when we get to a 6, then it will mark the infinity as also having one more neighbor that is not infinity, and then infinity will change into 6 plus 7. So what I did from the very beginning is overcomplicated and do wrong, where whenever I get to some element in the BFS queue, for example to 5, for each of the 4 neighbors, I look at the 4 neighbors and I see if there are 2 non-infinities. This is incorrect. Instead, what I should do is when you have some value in the BFS queue, for every neighbor, you need to right now tell you, hey, I exist. I exist, take care of that, and keep, for example, a counter. Initially, counter is equal to 0, then it will be 1, then it will be 2. When it's 2, you need to do something. So add this element to the queue. This thing was incorrect. That's because this element checked too much among neighbors. It checked something here that was maybe a 6, and itself it became a 7, and 5 should not insert 7 into the queue because now it's not a BFS queue where you only insert a +1 value anymore. For BFS to work, for BFS queue to work, you need to have only transitions where a node with distance 5 will insert another node with distance 6. This is, so edges have cost 1 versus what I did first, because my code checked too much, let's say, is sometimes I was at 5 and I tried to update a neighbor that became a 7, from infinity to became at 7. So I kind of had an edge of cost 2. And this will then propagate into bigger errors, and thus eventually the costs will grow even more. This is why it didn't work. My edges in my, let's say, abstract fake graph, they had costs bigger than 1. That's interesting. So I was unlucky that my first solution was slightly overcomplicated compared to that. I then realized why it's wrong, but I thought to correct it I need a setter priority queue, but turns out that the limits were not really adjusted for that. which makes sense because here the intended solution is just linear, so priority queue seems to be an overkill. Okay, well, I would say that it's interesting that something like this happened. I could code the new solution, but I leave it up to you as homework if you want. Are you reading YouTube chat? Yes. Not always. Big band grid. I'm going to read this and then most likely finish the stream because it's too long for me. And also I want your opinion, like I often do recently. So what we did today we solved almost the whole ABC contest. ABC. Let's call this division 3. Now the issue with that is that first problems were some problems were not interesting for everybody. For every person, some problems were boring, either too hard or too easy. So there is big spread of difficulty. I will type this as a minus. Big spread of difficulty. And as a plus, I will say easy to organize / choose. It's the structure of the stream is very regular, not random, where I just go through problems from one contest. As a plus, I will also say I could announce which contest in advance, so that you could, before the stream, try the problems on your own, and I think then it's been very beneficial to watch the stream. What I can do instead during a stream is solve a lot of problems of similar difficulty. Like in Codeforces, let's say only difficulty around 12 or 1300. In AdCoder, maybe it would be from AdCoder beginner contests, let's only solve C and D from a lot of contests. What version do you think is better? One contest only or one difficulty only? Let's call this version 1 and version 2. What do you want me to do for future streams? You can type 1 or 2, whatever you prefer. And you can also give me some arguments, some explanation, because I don't know what is better. Hi, you have been my biggest inspiration for journey into CP, even this late in my life. Thank you for all your teaching. Simple column, that's very nice to hear. You're welcome. Chef's choice. One difficulty or one concept, one contest. Solving ad hoc problems has more value. But Chandu, you're talking about the style of problems. I don't know then which version of the stream is better. One topic only. But one topic only. The issue with this is that many problems do not match really a topic. Or also a topic is a huge spoiler to a problem. Especially nowadays, a lot of AdCoder and Codeforces problems, let's say it's a sequence and you do some operations. After reading the statement, you don't know what the solution will be about. Yeah, I agree with Nikhil. So, do we accept spread of difficulty? It seems that this is good for regular, well-organized classes, and so is the topic thing, where if you're doing competitive programming, if you want to practice for that, and you are waiting for the stream and you want to plan some, no, that's not what I want to say. If you want to improve and the difficulty will be right for you, so it's like slightly above your level, somewhere around that, then this seems best to learn. If you want to really treat this as a learning experience, where if needed, you're going to pause the stream or you want to watch it again, if needed, to actually understand everything. So as I lecture to a fixed group of people, it seems that this is beneficial. That being said, for the remaining people, for those stronger and those weaker, this will be not a useful stream. So this will alienate a lot of people. For this one, everybody will get something just at some moment of the stream. Another thing is that I wanted to keep the separation and alternate between Division 2 and Division 1 streams. And when we get to the end of this AdCoder Grand Contest, what am I saying? Beginner contest, not Grand Contest. For Grand Contest, we wouldn't solve 6 out of 7 problems. When we got to the end, it wasn't easy anymore. And actually, I struggled. I had bad luck, but still, I struggled. Best way to prepare for Olympiads? First, be good at competitive programming in general, then start solving Olympiad problems. Glump, I see your correction. But this also might mean that we will solve those harder problems. What about this? I think I chose one because I wrote AGC. What about, let's say, some kind of hybrid of this? I think that a full contest is too big of spread. It has a very big spread of difficulty. So maybe what I should do is during a Division 2 stream, like the goal for that was today, Division 2 stream, it's okay to solve, let's say, ABC or Division 3, A to E problems. And once I'm done with that, move to the next contest. So keep doing easy problems. Still, it's okay to do a lot of problems from one contest. So still, for a lot of people, it will be beneficial. And then in a Division 1 stream, what I would do is I can still warm up with ABC/Division 3 F or G, but in practice I would rarely do that because it doesn't seem very interesting for experienced people. Instead, it would be just, well, Division 2, let's say, or Division 1 A to C problems, and maybe then move to another contest. So it's kind of between of those two where it's half of the contest. Do half of a contest and then move on to the next contest. And another thing about this is that the reason why you see me stream a lot in the past couple of weeks is that I have time and it's easy for me to do a stream. For such almost daily streams, I don't have time to prepare for it, to spend 1 hour in advance and prepare. In particular, because I don't earn from this. This is just a hobby for me. And spending 2 hours several times a week, that's already a lot of time, but adding preparation to that, and there's also adding some kind of stress, because it's completely different in terms of mindset if you turn on the stream and you do some stuff and people happen to watch it, versus you want to plan it. That's really a huge difference. And if I was to go with this, in practice, you would just not see that many streams or just no streams at all because it's so much easier. Maybe this stuff makes sense for weekend streams. On Saturday and Sunday, it's natural that more people will watch. So maybe I can think about every weekend doing a topic stream. I would prefer to have 2-3 streams a month from only one topic, CSS problems, for example. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. So on once a week, usually on a weekend, there would be something planned where I need to, on Codeforces, announce it at least a day in advance. Some people might want to try those problems. But for those daily streams, like if I just today, what is it today? Friday. Friday I have some time, I want to go live, solve some problems, so practice a little bit and also teach you, then it needs to be one of those two. Solving recent contests helps being organized. Yeah. Is it fair to say we don't push immediately in the neighbor, but the second time it is visited? Well, yes. I think it is fair to say that. Why you're not doing camps? What do you mean? What kind of camps? Like an on-site or online? Just next week I'm teaching at an online IOI camp. It's free for IOI participants. So it seems that the plan will be, it's a new page. So once a week, in practice it will be 3 times a month. You know, sometimes on weekends I'm busy. So maybe Saturday or Sunday, 3 times a month on average. It will be a topic stream. For example, DP or some section of CSS. Though I wonder if advanced section of CSS counts. Or maybe USACO guide topic. USACO has also a lot of materials. Though I need to choose the difficulty as well. And then sometimes daily. Well, if sometimes, then it's not really daily. Wait, how do you spell daily? Why do you spell daily this way? Why isn't it daily? English is so stupid. Sometimes daily, it will be just Division 2 or Division 1 stream. Solve, have a contest, move to next contest. I think that will be the plan. For example, from today, if this was supposed to be an easier stream, I should have stopped after E. A, B, C, D, E, move to next contest and again solve A, B, C, D, E. Keep the harder problems for the harder stream. Yeah, for daily streams, we can do ABCD from either Division 1 or 2. Yes, though Division 1 ABCD can take really a lot of time. So for Division 1 stream, I think it would be more like ABC and move to next. Let me answer some chat messages. Would you consider Q&A streams? I mix that in between of problem solving. I don't think it's such a useful idea to do just a Q&A stream. I think it's better if at the beginning of the stream or the end of a stream I do it. Maybe I should focus more on it at the beginning of a stream. The IOI camp is announced on Codeforces. No, the camp is only for IOI participants. I will consider advanced CSES, but it's a lot of time. If you want to prepare for Olympiads, spend as much time as you can, as you want. 20 hours a week is certainly enough to not feel bad about not spending time. So let's say 20 hours a week, that's a nice amount, but not everybody can do it. Ramsey, you should read my blogs in Codeforces. So generally, Codeforces is loading. I see. Do I have the internet? If you go to my blogs, you will see a lot of stuff. In particular, the IOI camp announcement. Some stuff is not announced, not posted yet. Oh, and for example, here, when talking about my streams this summer, I mentioned that you can book a 50 euro call with me. In particular, then you can for 30 minutes ask a lot of questions. I put a link, but you can also search for Codeforces Ericta. This particular thing is here. Though next week, starting from Thursday, I will not have time because of the IOI camp. The camp will be recorded and posted in half a year or a year, but there are recordings from the previous 3 camps. You can watch those. Okay, that seems to be a reasonable plan, right? Right, now I wanted to look at that last problem, even though I've just said how stupid it is to have such a big variety of difficulty. I just want to read. So it's this thing. There is a grid. There are k obstacles. We are here. We want to get to the opposite corner. We can move up, down, left, right. Check if we can reach. Oh, that's a very standard problem. Well, I know a solution here. So the task, the issue here is that the grid is huge. You cannot run BFS or DFS because the grid is 200,000 by 200,000, and there are some obstacles. You want to check if there is a path from one corner to the next. There is a hard solution using data structures that actually tries to find reachability to everything. When you are in some row, you can use some data structure to see how far to the right you can go and use in some way mark that region. And so on. Different implementations are possible. Maybe a segment tree is one possibility. Maybe it can be done without it. But the easy solution to this, so if you have a huge grid, like 1 billion by 1 billion, and some blocked cells, and you want to check if there is a path from one corner to the other, if there is any path here, then instead what you check is you check if the path is blocked, which means that there needs to be a path of blocked cells that goes like that. So it needs to connect this side of the grid with this side of the grid. If you could move up, left, right, down, then if there is a path of, let's say, this blocked cell, this blocked cell, this blocked cell, and so on, then it will prevent you completely from moving. Let's say this. As you can see here, this makes one corner not reachable from the other, and this is because there is a path from here to here. And if I can move, if the statement says that we can move in 4 directions, then the blocked cells, they can move in 8 directions. So diagonally also is enough to block. Basically, I'm not sure about proper formulation of that, but for adjacent reachability of one corner between corners is, well, equivalent or dual, so it's a duality to 8 adjacent reachability between sides of the grid. And by the way, if we could move in 8 directions, then we would need to check if there is a path of blocked cells where they can move only up, left, down, right. So I guess I can as well implement that because it will take 5 minutes. Then I will finish the stream. So that's a very standard problem that is perfectly fine for a beginner contest, but this would make no sense in the Division 1 contest, even as Division 1A, because it's too well known. Beginner contest or Division 3 is a good place to explore such standard problems. Let's move this here, this here. Test cases? No. I'm surprised that there are no test cases. If there is yes or no question, do I need this? No. If there is a yes or no question, then usually test cases help. Otherwise, you need to create really a lot of tests. Yeah, Ramsey, I already gave you some links. Go through those. Also, in important contests, it would be bad to have 2 problems of similar style in a row. This is a grid problem. The previous one is also a grid problem, and that's good. That's a bad combination. Now, how do I want to do this? A set. And let's do DFS. For everything in the neighborhood, this is how you iterate the 8 neighbors. Up, down, left, up, and so on. 8 neighbors. Visited insert row column. And here, if this neighbor, if it's not visited, but it's in the cells in the input, then go there. Additionally, if it's at the end, if row equals the last row, no, the first row, or column equals the first column, then we output no, and we stop the program. This means we got to the opposite side. In my drawing, it's this thing or this thing. I need to run DFS, and if nothing happens, then output yes. And here what I do in between, I need to say if if row equals the last or column equals first. Then starts push back and place back row column. For everything row column in the starts, if not visited yet, DFS. Okay. Cells count. No. And I want to see a single yes. Again, I've overrode the test. Now, how much time did this take me? 4 minutes? And the previous problem took more than 1 hour. Here we see half an hour since the last submission, but this is because I talked about other things. AtCoder or Codeforces for problems practice? You should mix. Did you have software experience, engineer experience? A little bit. Stream schedule. No, it's not the same every day. I will try to make it more organized. How do I have this? There is this calendar. And usually a day before the contest, I put the announcement there, which is displayed on the Twitch channel. I think it's nice if you plan to solve AtCoder beginners, since it's very educational. I agree that beginner or Division 3 contests are educational. Here below the Twitch video, you can also see this calendar, and I think there should be some way to import that or use the link. It's the same thing. The link is taken from here or the other way around. But it's not that I have organized enough schedule that it's weekly same. A day before, if I see that I have time, then I will put stuff here. Additionally, I will put it on Codeforces. So in Codeforces on the right, you will have the countdown. Will I beat LGM again? Maybe, we'll see. Division 3 are less educational. Then maybe it's a good idea to solve old Division 3. Oh, another question to everybody here. When solving problems, it can be Division 3, Division 1, AtCoder beginner, whatever. Should I use option 1, new contests, recent contests, I mean, or old contests, let's say 5+ years old? You can type 1 or 2. The advantage of this is maybe you will see a problem that recently you tried to solve but failed. Also, it basically uses, well, newest algorithms, the newest meta of what we should solve, what we should know how to solve. And this is generally more educational. More often there will be an algorithm that you should know. You can type 1 or 2 in the chat. Chinmaya, why did you type 1 old contests? One was new contests. No, I agree. I have problems in solving Isako Bronson gate. What to do? Not sure how to help you. If it seems that you are trying to solve stuff at some level and it's too difficult, then generally the advice would be drop to lower level. Solve a lot of problems of easier category. I don't know how many comments are repeated in the chat. I hope not many, but generally the 2 won. I will keep that in mind. Okay, I think we can wrap this up today. So yes, solving is good for practice. You practice competitive programming by solving problems. 2 new contests. Okay, what was I going to say? So just to make sure, in AdCoder, now we solved everything, right? How do I check that I solved everything? Why is it not green? Results, my submissions, status, accepted, search. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, great. I see some new comments. I will answer to this. Is it good strategy to solve for all the problems I can solve? Yes. Generally, if you participated, later you want to solve at least one extra problem, something that you couldn't solve during the contest. Though, if, for example, you solved during a contest, let's say ABC, then it means that you should absolve D, you should maybe try E, but further problems are likely beyond your reach, so it's not that you need to try them. You don't need to try all the problems. Will I take part in Next Division 1? I'll see if I have time, but generally I want to. Virtual contests from time to time are good. Okay, now that's really it. Today we did AdCoder beginner contest something, 413. I'm going to change the title of YouTube stream. By the way, if you want to help a little bit, in below the YouTube recording, if you want to find timestamps of when I start every problem, you can put a YouTube comment of something like at 1750 problem A, at 3033 problem B, and so on. If you do that, I will pin the comment or put it in the description, and then the YouTube will automatically take that into the video so that you would see timestamps, if you have time for that. If not, well, that's fine. Okay, thank you for watching, everybody. If you're IOI participant, go to Codeforces for that IOI camp. Have a good day. See you. Oh, 3 hours. I wanted to donate